Hello students, this video is for class 8 chapter 2nd microorganisms. This chapter will be done in your biology notebook. So let's start for this chapter, right? So as the name suggests that microorganisms, basically microorganisms are the organisms which are so small that cannot be seen basically with your naked eyes, and you need certain devices like microscope, compound microscope or electron microscope to have a detailed structure of theirs for better understanding and all. And such organisms are called as microorganisms. And first of all, the first foremost topic that we have is microscope. That we'll be seeing in our biology lab with different type of slides and all. So basically what we need to understand, basically there are two lenses. First is eyepiece, that is one near to your eye, and the other one is your objectives, which are kept near the specimen, right? Moving on to the features of microorganisms, if we are moving right, what we should know about them, that they are present everywhere, right? Irrespective of the harshness of the environment that we may be living in, either it may be too cold, too hot, too humid, or whatever it might be, right? You can find microorganisms over there, right? And basically they have this mechanism that is called as cyst formation. Under the, you can say, unfavorable conditions, they form a layer around the body that is called a cyst, and under the favorable conditions they break the cyst and continue their life cycles. So basically they have this active phase and the dormant phase. And after that, if we have to understand, they are something like which are not only like, we can't say that they are harmful or they are useful, because they play their role in both the ways, right? There are certain areas where they have been sort of boon to us, and there are bane to us, sorry, and there are certain areas where they have been like acting as a boon for us. Now, to go into the detailed structure, we have to understand there are different type of microorganisms. So basically the microorganisms are classified into three categories, though, that is they are like fungi, bacteria, protozoa, virus, and algae. So starting on the first one is algae. Basically they have a cell wall in their outer lining. That is a feature of plants that they have actually, but they do not have chlorophyll. And cause of no chlorophyll, we can say that they are non-green in color. And what we have to understand apart from that, they are either unicellular or a multicellular. They may be like, and the one of the common example, best example that you can see is like bread mold. If you can see, right, rhizopus is an example of that. Now moving on to the next one, there is your bacteria. And the one thing that you have to understand about bacteria is that they are the smallest, oldest creature that have been existing on our planet, right? And they are mostly single celled, that is, you can say they are unicellular, but they have this unique way of living, that is they live in colonies. Means like the multiple group of unicellular organisms will be living next to each other, but they are living in group, right? Now there are certain disease also which are caused by bacteria, like cholera and typhoid. So the classification within bacteria is done on the basis of their shape. So there are different four type of shapes on the basis of bacteria are classified. Either they may be bacilli shaped, that is the rod shape, then you can say cocci shape, basically spherical units. Then we have spirilla, they are spiral shaped, you can say. And vibrio is something like, you can say, they are the comma shaped. Now moving on to the next one is the algae. Algae are something which are quite similar to the plants, right? They have chlorophyll, they have cell wall, and cause of chlorophyll they have, you can say, they have sort of pigments which can be used for trapping sunlight and for carrying out photosynthesis, right? The best examples are your volvox, spirogyra, and diatoms. Then protozoa are something like, you can say, they are mostly unicellular organisms, and they have a parasitic they're basically parasitic mode of nutrition, right? And the one thing where we have to understand that normally fungi are basically found in basically moist and humid places. Bacteria can be found anywhere, and as far as protozoa are concerned, they can be found anywhere, but majority of the protozoas are found in aquatic regions only. And common examples, you can say, are like amoeba, that we have been studying for the past 2 years. Amoeba, paramecium, giardia, they are the examples of protozoa. And the last but not the least are the viruses. They are the smallest of all actually. And the reason for saying that is like, normally the other microorganisms can be seen through compound microscope, but viruses are so small that we need to have an electron microscope, and it is you can say more than 1,000 times smaller as compared to other microorganisms. And the beauty about those things are like, you cannot say that viruses are living or non-living. So they have this unique way of living that, like, till the time they are outside the host body, they are in the you can say the dormant phase or sleepy phase, and the moment they get a host body, they become active and they carry out their life cycle, right? And there are multiple number of disease which these viruses are causing. Either it may be plants, in plants, animals, or humans. Like if we are talking about humans, then polio, swine flu, coronavirus are the examples of the disease caused by viruses. Animals, like they're causing basically foot and mouth disease, and this common disease that you all have heard is rabies. And plant, if it is considered tobacco mosaic virus, they are basically the plants disease. And here one more word will come, that is like bacteriophages, and these are said to be the smallest of all the viruses. So you can say, understand how small they actually are, and they are known for causing disease in the bacteria, so that's why they are given the name of bacteriophages, right? Now moving on to understand that certain bacteria, uh, we have to understand about the uses of microorganisms. So basically multiple uses are there of microorganisms, like for example, if insulin production is to be done, insulin production that is on a mass scale, then we are using certain bacteria. Then you can say, basically there are certain bacteria which are present in the ruminants animal, which make sure that they are able to digest the cellulose. Then if you go to South Asian countries, like seaweed and phytoplanktons is a common part of their staple food, and those are basically algae, you can say. And high quality of crockery items are basically used, made like with the help of diatoms, which are nothing but the algae again. Agar we are discussing like a common production, you can say, like milk fermentation process, like for making cottage cheese or curd, then we are using bacteria and all, right? Then apart from that, there are other uses, like in vaccines, if we have to go on, right? So our body has a general mechanism of protecting us from any sort of anti for foreign substance, basically, right? And that's what we are calling as immunity, like is the ability of our body to fight against any foreign pathogen that is getting inside our body. So what happens is, like whenever a microbe or any foreign substance that is getting into our body is called as antigen, and in response to that antigen, our body basically produces antibodies, right? And these antibodies have a sort of memories, right? For example, if an organism can again try to enter our body, then they'll remember, like this was there previously also, they will repeat their counter itself. And that's what is being followed for the concept of vaccination. Basically, when we go for vaccination, a weakened, or you can say microorganism of the disease causing, uh, that specific disease causing is being injected into our body, and in response to that, our body start preparing the antibodies, and that again, like in future, if any again the attack is by the same pathogen, so that will be kept in mind. In agriculture, we all have studied like the about the nitrogen fixing bacteria, you can say nitro rhizobium, right? Basically for used for converting atmospheric nitrogen into more usable form that can be used by plants, like nitrites, or you can say nitrites. And in the one classic example is in cleaning the environment, basically the decomposers, which are basically decay of any dead or decaying body, or any dead or dying animal is there, right? They'll be feeding upon them. Basically what they are doing is decomposing, that is releasing the nutrients from that decayed or dead body and all, and ultimately helping in cleaning the environment, right? Because you can just imagine if any dead organism would be lying nearby, how pathetic it would be, because it would be lying there forever if the decomposers were not there, right? And then we move on to the harmful bacteria. Basically we know that multiple diseases are there in humans, plants, and animals, which are caused by these microbes, right? So basically, what we have to understand is like the mode of the transmission, how exactly they are getting transferred from one organism, one human to the another, right? There are certain which are caused by uh, the spread, or basically spread through air, right? Basically when a person sneezes or coughs and all, so those microorganisms might get into some other healthy person's body. And there are certain vector borne disease. Basically they are the disease which are not caused by the these insects and all, but they carry the disease causing microorganisms and are responsible for that. For example, you can say malaria or dengue is there, right? They are not caused by the mosquito, but they are responsible for transmission of this protozoa, right? Then there's a table, huge table for the disease caused by the microorganisms in humans. So basically they are like cholera, chicken pox, polio, typhoid. So they have mentioned what exactly is the pathogen that is causing. Pathogen is a general term that we say it maybe it is a generic term which can be used for any of the five classification. So basically, any disease causing microorganism is called as a pathogen, right? So cholera is caused by bacteria, right? Like vibro cholera, you'll be studying in higher classes, right? Then polio by virus again. Then typhoid is caused by bacteria known as Salmonella typhi, right? Rabies is again by a virus. Then there are certain diseases which are caused in plants and animals also. Now moving on, next topic, the final topic for this chapter is your spoilage of food. Basically, spoilage of food means like if food has been kept for a longer duration, there are chances that it might be infected or contaminated by the bacteria and fungi, right? Because they get the favorable conditions for feeding something, right? Man, something like you can say warmth and the moisture is the important factors which, or you can say the best suitable conditions for the bacteria and fungi to grow, right? So this contamination or wasting of food by the microorganism is called as spoilage, and there are certain techniques that we can follow for prevention of food. First is drying or dehydration. So it's like removing the moisture content. For example, you would have seen in your houses also, like when we are having the grain, wheat or rice and all, we are trying to store them. We make sure that we are drying them first, so that we don't want any sort of moisture present in them, right? Because again, that moisture and humidity will be giving acting as a favorable condition for the microorganisms, right? And sweetening and salting. It's like if you add too much of sweetness or too much of salt, basically they avoid. The growth of microorganisms. Then we have heating, like if you are heating the food item to a very high temperature. Then in this heating, we have this one favorite word that is called as for pasteurization. So pasteurization is nothing like when we you would have seen in your houses also when your mother would be getting the milk right from outside. The moment she'll just start heating it up, and after some time she'll allow it to cool down rapidly, and she'll put inside a freezer. So this rapid change of the temperature of milk, like first heating it to a very high temperature, then lowering the temperature, this is called as pasteurization because it changing the temperature at such a rapid rate will not allow microorganisms to survive. Then we have using chemical preservatives, so like certain chemicals are there, sodium benzoate and potassium metabisulfite. Basically, they remove the oxygen content, right? Basically, and thereby again preventing the growth of microorganisms. Like then we have canning. Once the food items are sterilized, basically you can see like packaging food we are getting. So when those foods are being sterilized, they are again put into jars and containers. And lastly, is like you would all have your in your house are the fridges, right? If you reduce the temperature to a very high, very low level, then basically you are preventing the growth of microorganisms. So that's it from this chapter. Thank you.